Oh, Julie Gillard, when are you going to include the Indigenous people in the Constitution? That's actually a good question, not one we've got, as a matter of fact.
Well, Indigenous people are very important to this country, and I think they should be part of the Constitution. And let's face it, we've only been here for just over 200 years, and they were here well before us, and there's no reason they shouldn't be. So if I get re-elected, that will be one of my top 10 things that will go in. I can guarantee that, yes.
Yes, okay. Well, that's a particularly competent answer from the stand-in Prime Minister.
Good evening, Anita Savage with ABC News. Investigators have begun the painstaking task of finding out what caused the helicopter crash that killed 3 ABC News veterans. Paul Lockyer, John Bean and Gary Ticehurst were on assignment when the chopper came down near Lake Eyre. Today, in the nearby town of William Creek, residents and pastoralists gathered to honour the men who were so dedicated to rural Australia. From William Creek, here's ABC reporter Scott Bills.
Not many people live at William Creek, but about 400 came from far and wide to pay tribute to the ABC crew who were known to many.
Today, though, as we remember Paul and Gary and John, we remember their families, Paul's wife Maria, Gary's wife Teresa, John's wife Pip. Our prayers and thoughts go with them.
They showed their respect in silence.
We feel sympathies for Gary, John, Paul, as Father Paul said, and would like to extend our sympathies to their families and the ABC community.
We've just flown over the crash site on the northeastern side of Lake Eyre in outback South Australia. Now the site itself is about 6 kilometres inland from where Cooper's Creek flows into Lake Eyre. It's obviously been a very serious crash. There's not much left in terms of debris of the helicopter. We were able to see part of the tail rotor and also a small part of the main rotor. Now there's obviously been a fire. There's quite a large area of burnt ground around the crash site. To say this is a remote location is quite a large understatement. It took us more than half an hour to fly to the crash site just from the nearest town. Now it's believed that forensic testing of the bodies may be done at the site just purely because of the sheer remoteness of this location.
Let's just return to our top story. And Australian journalism has lost 3 experienced news gatherers in a helicopter crash in remote South Australia. Reporter Paul Lockyer, cameraman John Bean and helicopter pilot Gary Ticehurst were in a helicopter that went down near Lake Eyre. We can go live now to Scott Bills, who joins us via broadband from near the crash scene. And Scott, can you just first describe the scene there to us?
Well, Andrew, it's a terrible scene. That's the only word for it. There's really very little left of the helicopter itself. There's a big charred ground where the crash happened. We flew over and all we could make out was a small section of the rear propeller and a small section of the main propeller. Everything else is basically just blackened ash.
They've gone all out just to prove a point. Researchers from Flinders University have come to Scylla's outlook in the Arkaroola Wilderness in South Australia's far north. It's a breathtaking spot for many travellers who want to get away from the world and drop out of contact.
Here at Arkaroola, the nearest mobile phone coverage is probably 100 or 130 kilometres away. There are places that we're visiting today where we're in chasms and gorges where even a satellite phone would actually have a lot of trouble.
It's no problem for a system that doesn't need towers or satellites. Each phone is fitted with software that allows them to talk to each other.
Hello Danny, can you hear me?
It's an adaptation of wireless internet technology, but instead of transmitting data over radio waves, it transmits voice. Out here, conventional mobile phones are useless, but with this new system, it's easy to make a call. Hello, Paul. How'd the test go?
Hi Jason, yeah, the test has been 100% successful.
Watching cricket has been a rarity for these two teenagers during an intensive 7 days that's opened their eyes to the Australian way.
We were sent here to, get used to Australian wickets, if we are touring the next time, we are not surprised and, we are up to it right from the go.
17-year-old leg spinner Akash Bandari has already played Indian first-class cricket, while 18-year-old Bavanaka Sandeep made a century on debut for Hyderabad this season. But it's as members of the Indian Premier League's Deccan Chargers, coached by Darren Lehmann, that they've been sent to Adelaide to the academy.
We all know that cricket in India is massive and there's a lot of sides over there, so we're sort of looking to get into the IPL franchises and bringing their players out.
It hasn't been a holiday, and it hasn't just been batting and bowling. The pair has been taken through some arduous physical training.
It was actually a pretty tough in the beginning to get used to, and then slowly we got used to it.
The academy usually works with the South Australian Cricket Association's High Performance Department to ensure players get the best all-round experience, something the Indian teenagers weren't here long enough to be part of.
We'd certainly like to have them out here for half a season, and that's difficult because they're actually playing cricket over there at the moment. But I think for them to get the full impact of the experience and playing the club cricket on weekends and just the day in, day out training.
If the academy is successful in selling the plan, there are a lot more Indian cricketers where this pair came from.
After 2 seasons of plentiful rains, the Anangu, Pitjantjatjara, Yankunytjatjara lands are rich with life. It's home to about 2,500 Anangu who have lived in the South Australia's northwestern corner for centuries. But like many other remote Aboriginal communities, medical conditions including diabetes and cardiovascular disease are rife.
The old saying goes that dogs and their owners look alike. Can the same be said for cats?
And I've seen it in dogs, and as I've always had a certain flat-faced cat, I would hate to think I've got a flat face.
I got cat class and I got cat style.
I'll let you be the judge on that one. Wow. Well, that story was produced by Pat Rocca.
But sadly, we've run out of time. Please thank Prime Minister Julia Gillard for joining us on Q&A.
But I had so much more to say.